And we are live with Victoria Coster. She is a CEO, public speaker, author, and credit repair specialist at Credit Fix Solutions. She's in Sydney right now, so it's quite early for her. It's about 6 or 7. It's 2 p.m. here, Oaxaca time, Oaxaca, Mexico. We're going to talk about fixing your credit score and repairing your credit. We're going to talk about mortgage. We're going to talk about running such a business for a decade now, which is quite impressive, and everything that Victoria is about. We're going to present this podcast. My company is going to present this one. It's Podpire. If you want to start or scale a podcast, monetize a podcast, you can go to podpire.com. We help you generate leads with podcasting. We help you generate sponsor money and YouTube AdSense money if you want to start a podcast. So podpire.com for that. Victoria, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hey there, Charles. Well, thank you so much for having me along today. It is super early here in Sydney, but that's all good. At least it's Friday for me, so bring on the weekend. So I established Credit Fix Solutions 10 years ago as the very first no win, no fee credit repair business. And it literally just took off. So in the last 10 years, I've built that up with now over 9,000 referral partners. And I basically fly across the country. I've now opened into New Zealand, and we look after finance brokers and their clients. So we educate finance brokers on credit reporting. And then off the back of that, I specialize in helping people to improve their credit reports. So therefore opening the doors to better finance options.
Got it. And you started as a mortgage broker. Why did you branch out from that into what you do today?
I wasn't originally a mortgage broker. I actually started working in pubs back in the early 2000s. And then I accidentally landed in finance and I was doing mortgage processing. And I really enjoyed it. I'm sort of a data person, right? So I love to sit there behind the screen and I love the detail. I love doing all the investigation work and adding up the numbers. And then I decided to try and be a mortgage broker, but I wasn't very good at it. It was a lot more than what I thought it was from a processing point of view. And so I quit that and jumped into credit repair back after the GFC, sort of 2007 to 2010. In Australia, especially Western Sydney, it was very difficult to write loans anyway. A lot of people were struggling. So I jumped into credit repair, which I found out after a couple of years I was very good at. So then after 3 years working for somewhere else, and you know what it's like, you work for other people, you have terrible bosses, you bring home a few $100s a week. I was just tired. I just had burnout. And I ended up just starting my own little business, which has turned into a bit of a monster over the years.
Right. And why that specific niche? Is there like a credit fixing problem out there? And is it only like in Australia or do you also do other countries?
So we've branched into New Zealand now. The aim of the game is to try and get into maybe Canada, maybe the UK with credit and credit reporting. So this is just really for, Western countries, the UK, Canada, America, Australia, and New Zealand as well. We carry a credit reporting system. So when we're going for a loan, unlike other countries like, for example, the Philippines, where they're just looking at your salary and assessing, your finances and then giving out government funding, it's private lending, right? At the end of the day, it's banks, it's non-banks, could be completely short-term private lending, someone's personal money. So they're relying on our credit reports to be able to trust that you're going to pay them back at a certain, whatever it is, percentage per year plus costs. And so by checking that credit report, they're given the ability to trust whether or not, are we going to default? Are we at high risk of defaulting? Have we got really great repayment history? Have we been applying too many times? And that's where the credit report comes in. And what we've seen over the last, I'd say decade especially, is that lending has become a lot more difficult. And credit reporting on the other side of the coin has become a lot more complex. So 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we just had one credit reporting agency in Australia. We now have four. We have four. And it's the same in the UK, and it's the same, over in Canada, New Zealand as well. all countries have at least 2, if not 3, credit reporting agencies. And what's happened is they set comprehensive credit reporting about 15 years ago in Australia, and then banks and lenders were told you need to report your data to the credit reporting agency, right? But then over the years, new ones came in. The banks and lenders didn't update their systems, so they don't report to the newer credit reporting agencies as they come into different countries. So now it's so hard to get money. We've just had massive interest rate hikes as well over in Australia, and also the cost of living crisis, which is impacting a lot of countries at the moment.
And in the end, how do you target your customers? Is there a legal way to do that via Facebook? And how do you make your money?
Well, Charles, I'm a little bit of a funny one because I'm in a banned industry for a lot of places, so I'm seen as the bad guy. So credit repair, it's very tarnished. And look, I don't blame lenders and sites saying, hey, credit repair is bad, because a lot of my competitors are very predatory. So Charles will ring up one of my competitors, they'll say, yeah, sure, we'll fix it, come on board today and we'll pop you into a payment plan. Okay, whereas there's very few, I'd say, morally speaking, good credit repair businesses. I speak to 2 other owners of credit repair firms in Australia, that's it, who do their work, and then if they're successful, they then charge money. So things like Facebook marketing, YouTube, I can do a bit of YouTube, that's fine. But Facebook, Google, they all hate me. That's fine. I get it. A lot of credit repair companies are bad guys. But for us good guys, that makes it tough. So then I've had to learn how to do a lot of organic SEO. So using hashtags and long key phrases, things like that. I've had to build relationships. So networking and building relationships. So the hard stuff, the good old fashioned getting out and building trust has been the key really to building my business.
And then do you charge like a percentage if you have them save X amount, or is it like a fixed amount? If you have them save money, they pay you a couple of thousands?
Yeah, the latter, exactly. So we see people, the most common scenario is they've gone to their finance broker. The finance broker knows us. Finance broker runs the credit report. Credit report shows that they've defaulted on a credit card in 2023 for $4,000. It's now paid. Now, at that time, they were just going through a divorce, or maybe somebody was sick. It's not necessarily that they're a bad person, right? It's just they've had tough times. It's just life, ups and downs of life. And so that's been recorded. So that's impacting their ability to either borrow maybe another $300,000 or also very expensive lending options. So broker sends them to us. We run an assessment. If we feel that we have a legal case, we'll take them on. And then about 4 weeks to 6 weeks later, once we've done our work, which is called internal dispute resolution. So I specialize in all the legislation that relates to credit reporting. I go into my legal battle. I win. They say, yes, we agree to remove it. Great. Then we get the clean credit report back to the broker and the client, and then they pay us a set fee because it's basically the same work. If it's one default, it's 4 weeks to 6 weeks and it's like 10 hours work. If it's 2 defaults, same thing, but it's 2 sets of work and 2 fees.
Got it. And do you only accept a client if you have a very high chance of winning, or do you win most of the time in most cases?
Yeah, we only onboard people where we believe we have legal grounds, because that's a lot of work to do at a cost. And as a business owner, you can't be doing that, otherwise you might as well go and run a charity. Business needs to be profitable and sit by itself and be able to pay the bills. And I need to pay my mortgage. So yeah, we turn down more people than what we bring on.
Right. And if I would be the bank on the other side of that, like how could I lose my case if I've lent money to someone, like my money, right? And then someone sues me in court or defends himself in court, and actually I end up losing like $30,000. I would be pretty pissed. So how would you have me lose as a bank in a court?
So I don't take any lenders to court. How I run it is a very polite, what we call internal dispute resolution. So we approach a bank, the Bank of Charles, and we say to the Bank of Charles, look, we're acting on behalf of John Smith. we would like all the documents on the account leading up to the time that you have defaulted our client. Our aim is to look into the validity of the default listing that you've applied. Now, the Bank of Charles then gives us all those documents, and my main role is I go in, because I've done it basically nearly 8,000 times to date, and I go in and I review all of the documents. I'm looking at communication history notes, default warning notices, our client story as well is very important. And then I'm writing a default removal letter up to the Bank of Charles. Bank of Charles then says, yep, you're right. We actually did make an error as per section 6Q of the credit reporting code, or 21D or 20.5, whatever we find. We will request the default to be removed through Equifax or through Experian, whoever has the default listed.
Got it. Okay, and usually is it on grounds of compassion? Is it like a law from the government protecting people from going in too deep, and governments understanding that banks make a shitload of money and sometimes should lose? Is it like on these grounds?
Honestly, Charles, the cases that I've had, you wouldn't believe. And people call me all the time. They're like, oh, hey, I just couldn't be bothered to pay it. My girlfriend took the car. And I'm like, well, dude, are you going to be bothered to pay me? Right. So character assessment to begin with. But yeah, it is. There's a lot of sad and genuine stories out there. People who've, lost young children, people who have been flood affected, fire affected, and banks and lenders are able to be compassionate in very severe grounds. It's not nice hearing these stories. Lots of victims of domestic violence. That's on the increase over here in Australia right now. Financial abuse, that sort of thing. So they do take these cases seriously. And I think because I do it the right way, and I respect the resolutions teams, and I respect the Privacy Act, I don't jump up and down and you need to remove this or I'm going to take you to the ombudsman, right? Because some of these credit repair firms, they don't care about anyone's feelings. I've managed to build great relationships and contacts within banks and lenders. We're looking at 20 to 30 credit reports every day now. That's how busy it is. And, so we're lodging maybe 20 cases, 30 cases a week. So you can imagine over time, it's like, oh God, it's Victoria again, but
Right.
I've been thanked. Yeah, I've been thanked in the past for treating them with respect, because often these girls and guys working in resolutions and collections, they do get yelled at a lot, frustrated customers. Yeah.
Well, wasn't there like a CEO in the US that got assassinated because he didn't pay his insurance policies? The company was a CEO at. Did you follow that?
I just saw, that was covered in Australia. He was shot in the back of the head on the street, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
In
because
the
he
Czech
didn't
Republic.
honor his policies. Well, that's a bit extreme, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, in the end, it's companies, right? And when people do business with a bank, they should know that this bank needs to make some money. Do you think
Mhm.
people should be more responsible with credit? Like, how should an individual approach credit, and how should a business person approach credit?
Yeah, sure. No, it's a great question. And I do agree with you there. A lot of people are very lax when it comes to their obligations. And rule of thumb is caveat emptor, the old Latin phrase, let the borrower beware, right? So you need to make sure that you're getting your statements. You need to make sure that you're respecting the fact that you're being lent money. How would you feel if it was your money? It's how I say. I always live my life by, I treat others the way I'd like to be treated. And for lenders, they are lending you money, and there's a lot of small print in the contracts that not even I read. So we need to be mindful of paying things back on time. And on top of that, as well, as a business person, if you're self-employed, lending's even more difficult. I went for my first home loan 3 years ago, and I was absolutely crapping myself for about 4 months whilst they went through 2 years of financials and tax returns. And so keeping all of this, keeping all your ducks in a row, I suppose, is very, very important, because then as a business, if you want to grow, if you want to buy extra trucks, etc., if you've got bad credit, well, you could be looking at a 29% interest rate instead of 9.
Yeah. And as a business owner, generally, I think you're better at investing in some things that will bring you a return. I think most consumers, like buying a Chanel bag is not very rational. Yet some people will do it for emotional reasons. So yeah, more of the story. probably become a business owner and start investing in a business instead of useless stuff. But I think there's so much
Yeah.
more to cover here. Like yourself, you're quite successful financially. I think you've built the life of your dreams. You have the house, you have the family, and so forth. How have you got there? Like, how would you describe you as an entrepreneur and the skills that you've acquired to get where you are today?
Well, I forget what a holiday is like. I do have OCD and I'm a control freak, so this is not for everyone. Yeah, you know what it's like. Like I see the hard work you do, Charles. It's really not for everyone. And you have to be quite risk adverse too. So I don't really care. Like I will jump off, I'll bungee jump, whatever. I'll take the risk and start a business. And a lot of people will think you're insane. Why wouldn't you want the security of a job? And I get that. And if you're that sort of person, then it's not for you. I've put myself through business coaching over the years. I've had to take that very seriously because I went from, for example, back in the day when I started 10 years ago, I had about 40, maybe 50 finance brokers local to me where I lived in Sydney. And then I went from 50 brokers to nearly 1,000 brokers because I got in front of a massive group. And so my hand was forced because I was like, crap, I don't know how to run a business of 1,000 brokers. So business coaching is definitely the key if you want to be successful, and obviously aligning yourself with business owners like yourself, Charles, where you've got experts who like you can help you monetize a podcast, or you get an expert who's been in business for 15 more years than you and you ask them to mentor you a little bit. So I wouldn't be where I am today without my mentors. They're very important. Surrounding yourself with smarter people than you, very important. One of my very first mentors, when I first started, I was doing quite well. It was maybe year 1 or year 2 of my business, and I was earning good money, didn't really know what to do with it. Like you said before, I was just buying handbags because I'd never seen that much money before in my life. And he said to me, he goes, Victoria, he goes, how's your bottom line? I said, what's the bottom line, Hank? And he just looked at me funny and he goes, your profit and loss. And I was like, still no, don't know what that is. And he goes, mate, he goes, your tax returns. He goes, how do you know you're making any money? And I said, well, I buy shoes, Hank. And he just kind of rolled his eyes at me and he goes, mate, he goes, come into my office in a couple of weeks' time, next time you're up in Queensland, and we'll go through your profit and loss. We'll go through your tax returns and I'll show you how to do forecasting. And he was just bombarding me with words I didn't know. But the next time I was up in Queensland, I went to go see him and we sat down. So being open to say, yeah, I'm dumb and I don't understand, that's really important, right? I have no idea how to monetize a podcast. I wouldn't even try. But you do, so I'll come to you,
Yeah, like invite him to the office so he can count the pair of shoes and bags you have there. No, I know what you're saying here. Went through the same things. What about your daily routine? Because I see you work out, you have a tennis court behind your house. What does a day in your life look like, and how do you take care of yourself after or before work so that you can maximize your performances during work?
Yeah, and performance is the key word there, isn't it, Charles? Because you have to treat yourself a bit like a sports professional. I wouldn't say completely. There's no way in hell I'm going to be alcohol free at any point, but I do get up at a certain time. I make sure I have, my 8 hours sleep, which is what I need. And I do some sort of exercise in the mornings and get a little bit of sunshine. And that for me is the magic formula for a great day. On a bad day, if I'm stressing out and I haven't done that, then I can't function at 100%, which you need to be, as you know. But 100% day will start off with just coffees, ease into it. I'm not a morning person. I do like my evenings, my afternoons. But that's my perfect day. And that's how I manage to have the energy to be able to cope with it. Because also on top of that, your creativity comes from that energy place as well. So if you're not on track, you can't be creative, and nor can you do the big rock stuff. It's all too hard. You might be able to do your little tasks, and everybody has those bad days, right? And I always say to people, look, just go and have a bad day, go and eat some ice cream and do it.
That's interesting. What about your relationship and your family? How do you make sure to keep time for that?
that can sometimes be hard, especially if I'm traveling a lot. I do come home tired. I probably travel once a week or every second week interstate, which in Australia means, an hour to the airport, waiting around in the airport, a 2-hour flight, going somewhere, seeing maybe 100 to 500 people, having to be switched on, maybe for 2 days, maybe for 3 days, getting home. Then you've got the admin work, you've got the team meetings, you've got the accounts, you've got the reports, you've got everything else. So I do try and say, I'll try and switch off at 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Sometimes I'll start super early in the morning so I can get most of it out of the way. And then it's dinner and we sit down together. And we always sit down together, even if one of us isn't eating, right? Like sometimes I'm on a stupid diet and I'm not eating, but we sit down as a family and we have that meal. And it's maybe not a great amount of time, but it's a quality amount of time. And then weekends is I'll pick a day where I just do nothing. And my husband knows, just don't go near her. She needs a day with no talking. But yeah, otherwise, you balance it with friends, families, maybe invite people over for dinner. I find it easier to host and I love to cook rather than going out because I'm out so much for work. So we have a beautiful outdoor eating area. As you said, we've got the tennis court to the side and we've got the reserve at the back. It's a bit like a mini resort. So having people over and cooking for them, that's my love language. So we often just do that.
Love it. What do you have in plans for 2025, business and personal?
Business, that's already locked in. We're just waiting for some key partner calendars so we can lock in all the dates. So first half of next year, you just run straight into it. Personal is a staycation at home this year. So I find that going away during the holidays is often quite exhausting and the kids don't really appreciate it now anyway. They're all teenagers. So staying at home, they can have some friends over. We can have some friends over. That's about it. What about you? What are you doing?
2025, well, I mean, for the year in terms of yearly goal, if you were referring to the new year, I haven't planned much. Like I'm so laser focused on the right now that I haven't planned much. But for 2025, probably doubling what I'm making with my podcasting agency. Some cool projects is I want to launch my cook channel on TikTok. So you mentioned that I love cooking, so creative. And I'd also be launching or doubling down my efforts on my high intensity workout channel on YouTube. So these will be like fun creative projects on the side. But yeah, if you ask like for the new year, I don't even know what I'll be doing. I took my vacations 2 weeks ago and that was pretty intense. I ran 100K. I did a mushroom ceremony, Temazcal in Mexico with my boys. And I feel like so recharged right now. My productivity is off the charts.
Very good. Well done.
Now, Victoria, let's close this off. Where can people find out more about you and your businesses?
I think the best place is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn and follow me from there. The website as well, if you want to get in touch, there's contact forms. So creditfixsolutions.com.au or NZ as well. So creditfixsolutions.co.nz. But LinkedIn, just come and chat with me. Connect. We can have a chat and messages. If I can help anyone with some business tips or maybe marketing tips, whatever, I'm very good at that. I'm the marketing queen around here. So always happy to connect.